I've seen just about everything. Seen queens overthrow kings, and straights flushed away. I felt the sweat after every re-raise, and nearly buckled after bad beats. Seen rags lead to riches, and witnessed countless miracles on the river. So if you want to play, take a seat and show me something I haven't seen. We play at FullTiltPoker.com.
This is Diego Cordovez.
Adam Schoenfeld.
Welcome to The Scoop, brought to you by Full Tilt Poker. Sometimes we don't need any introduction. Phil Hellmuth Jr. speaks for itself.
11 bracelets. Let's do this.
So you told me something that surprised me last night, which is that for a year and a half you said that you changed your game, which I hadn't really realized, and it surprised me in the sense that you won a lot of tournaments, and even with the bigger fields in 2007, you won another World Series bracelet, and you made a final table in the WPT, so things are rolling along pretty reasonably well. So what's the background on that?
Well, I mean, you know, it's probably, I started trying to play faster and to play more hands, because I've always had this skill. I mean, you don't win 11 World Championships in Hold'em without being able to outplay people.
You won 11? I've never heard that. Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
Is there an 11 there? Yeah, all right. So I think what happened is, I feel stupid now. I feel like you look at Tiger Woods and you look at the fact that he was killing it with Butch Harmon.
Right. Changed the swing.
Yeah. Then he's and some of the PGA Tour players that I've talked to have said that if he would have stayed with Butch Harmon, he'd probably have 7 or 8 more majors. That's just their opinion. I'm not going to mention any names, and I think that, you know, so for me to change something, especially like 06 for me was a first, a second, a third, a fifth, and a 13th, was a phenomenal year. Mm-hmm. And then 07 I somehow won a bracelet as well. And I think to change it was just...
Did you feel, I mean, what motivated it? Was it that you just felt that the game had changed so much you needed to adapt? It seems like if everyone else...
Everybody else was starting to play, yeah, but they're all starting to play a lot tighter, and I thought, you know, let me play a few more hands. And the experiment, I was able to accumulate chips. I mean, I had 6 cashes at the series this year. So, I mean, if I'm in there with a 7-8 suited and I'm raising it and they're re-raising it weak, I just call with 7-8 suited, whether I thought they were weak or strong. And then the hand starts there after a raise and re-raise, whereas in the past, I wouldn't even play 7-8 suited. I mean, I might limp in with it. I might raise with it and just lay it down every time. The problem with the faster way that I've been playing is that you take a lot of swings. So, you know, after the 3rd hand in a row, when we're down in the 6-handed championship, we're down to 40 players, and it was my 3rd raise. I'd only looked at, I mean, to be honest, I looked at 0 cards that hand before I raised. Mm-hmm. I made it 30,000 to go, and this guy moves in for 230,000. And I look back, and there's an ace. I'm like, wow. I'm like, I'm not slow rolling you. I have an ace, and I'm just looking at the other card. I've already looked at the ace. I pretended I'd already looked at it before I raised. And of course, I'm sweating really hard. Boom, there's the other ace. Just flip it up on the table. He thought I was slow rolling him. I wasn't. I mean, you know, I wasn't, and I think he understood that. And, you know, and there's the flop, king, queen, 3, you know, and you know, the guy had king queen offsuit, you know, right. You know, and now I lose this $500,000 pot, which would have put me in the chip lead with 40 left. But honestly,
but whether you're in the old style or the new
right,
style,
you're going to play aces.
A beat like that.
No, well, on the surface you could say that. Okay, I took all that time to send out a Twitter with you guys on it. At my Phil _Hellmuth.
Thank you.
Twitter, but I'm promoting your show, and now you're promoting my Twitter. Promote, da-da-da-da-da-da. But seriously, playing the aces in that spot, if it's not the 3rd hand in a row, maybe this guy doesn't re-raise. I may still lose a lot of chips. The point is, when you play that fast style, it's going to, whether you have aces or whether you have 7-8 suited, your chips are going to be fluctuating like this.
Yes. But if you have aces, you're delighted that someone's moving on you, aren't you?
Of course I'm delighted. Of course I'm delighted.
So in that sense, the style led to action that you want.
Yeah, sure. I mean, you know, we got down in the limit hold'em tournament, you know, and I flopped top set, and the guy wouldn't stop raising me, and I thought, this is brilliant. And you know, the turn card was a king, and all he had was ace king, you know, and we put in the rest of my chips, and you know, he'd flopped a flush draw, you know, and he hit the king, and he decided that that was good, so he put in the rest of his chips, and there's a mountain of chips laying out there, and the guy has a diamond draw, and I still see that dealer going, shh, bam, 6 of diamonds, so cruel.
But
you know, because...
But let's talk about your style. You changed it.
Bring me back.
Yeah,
like when we're doing lessons today with Jeff Schulman.
Yeah.
Bring me back. Diego and I, we like to tell stories, but just bring us back.
I want to bring you, because so you changed your style, and now do you feel that that has been less effective, and you're going to change back? What's the current state of it?
I mean, Adam, it's impossible for me to go out of the 25K tournament on day 1. I lasted 5 hands this year. It's impossible. I decided that I was going to bluff somebody, and I was just going to, you know, and that's the aspect of it, that I just opened myself up completely. And I said, if I think I can pull off a bluff, I'll just move it all in. And I became extraordinarily dangerous, coming over the top of people, I mean, more often than anybody in poker, which is saying a lot. So people are opening, I'm just coming over the top, whenever I feel any weakness at all.
And also your past image of being tight and not taking all those chances is probably helping you. So it seems like this is going to work for you.
It seems like it would
work.
Super effective, just based
and
on
it was, and I did
building
cash
up the
6
image.
times. So either I was unlucky in those spots, but here's the problem: you end up getting all in when you're playing like that.
Right, and that's not your...
Right. So and that's the problem with that style. Sometimes you end up with a chip lead. In the years past, what I've done is I've had this super effective, super tight gear that I've always been able to use when the time is right. I'll get drawn to a table where I just know I can't get away with anything. So maybe I'll be raising every hand at the other table, and then I'll come to the new table. But when you're raising every hand, not re-raising every hand, it's pretty effective when everybody's folding. You're just accumulating chips. Now you get drawn to a table, and there's Chan, you know, and there's somebody else, and there's somebody else, and my first raise gets, you know, re-raised, and I'm like, okay, you know. And I'll just sit on my hands for 3 hours, you know, and just kind of be patient and, you know, and hopefully not let it affect me that my chip stack's gone from 30 down to 23,000, and maybe pick up a hand and back up to 27. 3 hours have passed where I'm completely risk-free. Then I get drawn to another table where maybe I can make a few more moves.
So are you, now it's post-World Series, you had 6 cashes, but for you the standard is bracelets, as you said many times.
Look,
are you happy?
Tables.
Yeah, are you happy with the
tables.
state of your game right now?
Right now I am, but I mean, I also had one of these I don't know, a crystallizing moment in your life when I've been very lucky financially, and I have a lot of choices in life. You know, I've just been offered some VH1 show, but I have to live in Vegas for 5 weeks. But it's a confirmed VH1 show. That's a big deal, right? I probably won't take it, you know. It has some Biggest Loser elements in it. But I might take it, right? I mean, it's hard to say no to a VH1 show where you're kind of the star. I mean, VH1's a pretty cool network, right?
Well, do you want to be famous, or do you want to spend time at home, or you are famous?
Right, and so my decision matrix was always family first. Is always going to be family first. And so I stopped playing World Poker Tour tournaments because I didn't want to fly, you know, to, you know, Atlantic City for one tournament and then get caught. I mean, when you're busted out in Atlantic City and it's 4 o'clock,
yeah, what are you gonna?
You can't get a flight out that night.
No.
You have to wait till the next morning. That's another day to kill. And so, you know, and I was extraordinarily frustrated with flying places and getting my money in with kings or queens against their ace jack or jacks and them hitting it. Flown all the way to the East Coast to get my money in 4 1/2 favorite, and the guy sucks out, you know, or maybe even 10 to 1 favorite.
That makes me think of one thing, because one of the controversial things, I think, is that in your articles and your interviews, you always talked about making laydowns where you're a big favorite, even as much as a 4 1 favorite, you know, where pre-flop you've got kings, or you've got, you know, a pair and you know someone's out of line. Now, so kind of a 2-part question is this going to be part of your game going forward? And if so, do you think that the way poker's evolved, that's still the right strategy, or that's still something that works for you?
Well, that's a good question.
Most people are really unnerved by the notion of having a big equity advantage in still not playing the hand.
Right. There's two things I'll talk about. One, I'll get back to the crystallizing moment in a second,
Yeah.
but I'll answer your question. What do you want me to do, crystallizing moment or your question? Tell me.
Well, let's deviate to this question and we'll...
Okay, we'll deviate. So basically, to answer your question, I was looking at, if someone was all in front of me and it was all my chips, I was looking at throwing away pocket aces before the flop. Now, to people that aren't creative thinkers, that's ridiculous. They don't even want to consider it. So a lot of great players I talked to didn't want to consider it.
Mm-hmm.
You have to be creative enough to consider everything. And that's why I am where I am, because I'll try things. Back in the day, when I was playing small ball poker and making, bluffs that were 20% of the pot, they were making fun of me as I took home all these trophies. And then all of a sudden the world started making smaller bluffs. So, you have to think of things no one else has thought of and try them on. At that point, back in 02, 03, I was able to pick up so many chips risk-free that I didn't have to play a big pot ever. You'll hear Devilfish, who's great at picking up free chips, say the same thing. God, I wish I didn't pick up a real hand.
See, a lot of people talk about small ball, and they don't usually put your name together with small ball, but would you consider yourself a pioneer of the small ball?
I mean, I was kind of something that I started doing before anybody. Was small ball. That's what I was doing back in the day, and they were making fun of me, for it. And then everybody started doing it, and now it's trendy. And I think because I'm cocky, because I say I'm great at Hold'em, I think that I take heat even from, Card Player Magazine, even your column recently, you guys. You were giving me some serious heat. Don't disclaim it.
No, we did.
It's an excerpt from the show, but
but
we're talking
I've got more heat for you. But
right.
Tell us the crystallizing moment, and then we'll give you heat, and you can respond.
So let me finish the aces thing.
Yeah.
Throwing aces away before the flop, not a good idea.
Right.
Okay.
But I looked at it, and there were times I threw away what I considered the best hand. Look, you just have to play aces, and if you think kings are good, you have to play kings. You have to do it. But for a while there, I could actually not play those hands and move my chips from 8,000 to 50,000 risk-free.
Right.
People say, how?
Right.
Well, you're stealing before the flop. You're re-raising people.
When you know
they can't call, when you know they can't call,
right.
And then all of a sudden your moves are flawless, your timing's flawless on the re-raises, and you have 50. You know?
You had a column once, I remember. You had either...
Wait. Hold on, Diego.
Yeah.
Hold on.
Right.
So you do have to play aces. And then let's get back to the crystallizing moment, which happened for me in Aruba. I think Daniel Negreanu was a little bit critical of the way I play poker, which is fair. And
in general or a specific situation?
I don't know which. I mean, but I mean, it's fair that I get some criticism from people. There are people that will criticize a lot of things that I do, and that's okay. I don't mind. But I started to think, wow, I mean, he feels like I need to improve on something, and I thought, I can say, all right, you're wrong, or I can say, wait a minute, let's be smart and let's use this as an excuse to improve a little bit. And I decided that that my life boils down to family first, but then poker, becoming the greatest poker player of all time, which Ivy may well become. But if I can put 24 bracelets up, and Ivy only has 18, then at least I can be the all-time bracelet champion. Mm-hmm. I want to become the greatest poker player of all time, and that's the #1 goal. But look, so you think you're starting businesses and you're writing books, and I've been lucky. I have a New York Times best-selling book, man. That was a lifetime goal for me,
Mm-hmm.
But what it boils down to is this. If I make $1 billion, there's 2,000 people right now that have $1 billion. So I'm just one of 2,000. No one's going to remember me for that. And also, to be honest, I mean, other than buying like a $20 million jet, not even a $60 million jet, what am I going to do with all that money? I mean, I don't want a yacht. I have some really nice houses now. But let me just try to go through this quickly. So 2,000 people can make $1 billion. Mm-hmm. You've got to figure there's 50,000 people or 20,000 people that have written a best-selling book. If I can write 2 or 3 of those, that's cool. The world's not going to remember me for that, though. Mm-hmm. 11 bracelets. One guy on the planet that has 11 bracelets. So my legacy to the world is about is more about what I've accomplished in poker.
Mm-hmm.
I think that, you know, and so that's what I'm going to focus on, number one. I think I'm definitely writing, as my next book after my autobiography, I'm writing a book, How to Achieve Great Things in Life. Because I've written a best-selling book, because I have 11 bracelets, and I feel like someone who's actually accomplished a lot should write a book like that, and I think it will do well. But poker needs to be moved up to the top, not above family. Mm-hmm. And in that way, I've been thinking about poker constantly for about 10 days.
But the crystallizing moment is to make it that priority.
The crystallizing moment
was Daniel criticizing you, and you thought, maybe I can work on poker more.
Or maybe have
the crystallizing moment is saying, yeah, all right, $1 billion, fine, a best-selling book, fine, but you know what? You're going to be remembered for poker.
Mm-hmm.
That's your shot to be the guy. So let's just focus on poker. And then I went back to my old school way of playing in Aruba. Okay. Made it through day one without ever being all in.
Right.
I mean, you know, the big pot, the other guys were drawing dead.
Right.
Flopped the nut flush, and I don't know what the heck they had. One guy did have a straight. You know, and then day two, I didn't pick up aces. I didn't pick up kings. It seemed like I was card dead all day. And yet I went from my 48,000 after day one to like 42,000. Never all in.
Right.
Right.
Came to day three, and finally, you know, I probably made a couple of moves that I shouldn't have, and finally I got involved where I had jacks, and I won a coin flip, and then, you know, and then I picked up, the ultimate situation. They dealt me aces, they dealt this guy kings, and they dealt the other guy ace king suited. I raised, he moved in. The ace king suited had like 100,000, and we had like, you know, 35 and 20. So he just shipped it with ace king suited, which was, now the cards are on their back, and I'm like, this is the sweetest situation ever. They have one out. Queen, queen, nine, rainbow. I'm like, one out. Bam, the 10 of clubs. I'm like, oh my God, don't do it to me. The ace king of clubs picks up a flush draw and a straight draw.
Right. A lot more outs now. A lot more
They
than
found
one.
the case king on the river, but at least I survived because the kings was the short stack. But this would have put me up to the chip lead, and I thought, this is old school Phil, man.
Right.
I'm all in with jacks. I'm all in with aces. You know, I have the best hand for all the money, and I can play days without ever being all in. 5 hands at the WPT Championship, ridiculous. You know, and ridiculous. Yeah, sure, I flopped 2 pair against a guy who had tried to bluff and blah, 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 and he hit a queen and blah, blah, blah. It doesn't matter what happened.
But now you feel
if I'm playing old school Phil,
right,
in those pots, I'm going to be sitting on, what do we start with, 100,000 in chips?
Right, you're still in the tournament. And
I'm going to have 99,000 left after those hands.
You still have a good chance to be champion.
I'm not going to call the race with the 10-3 of clubs for it to come 10-7-3.
Thanks for joining us on The Scoop, brought to you by Full Tilt Poker.
Full Tilt is the label that pays me.
Certainly no sane person would think that we would contain Phil Hellmuth to one episode.
And we're not dealing with the same person.
So join us next week for part 2, and register The Scoop at cardplayer.com.
I see you. Your eyes. Your hands. Your chips. Everything. So I don't need to see your cards. We play at fulltiltpoker.com.